Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to this conference on Standards, Your Innovation Bridge, organised by CENELEC with the support of the European Commission and EFTA. My name is Jackie Davis, and contrary to the headset mic you see, what we call a Madonna, and the music, I'm not going to dance for you today. You'll be relieved to hear, but I am going to be the Master of Ceremonies at all our plenaries today and the moderator of panel debates this morning and this afternoon, and then acting as a provocateur in some of the breakout sessions. I'm going to tell you more about the programme for today in a minute, but before I do that, let's watch a little video to tell you more about the topic we are here to discuss. Let's see that video.
Throughout history, all kinds of human activity have benefited from standardization. In 1840, for example, standardized time, GMT, was adopted by several British railway companies to coordinate train timetables. 5 European countries then agreed on a standard gauge for railway tracks, which made it easier to transport people and goods. At the beginning of the 20th century, the paper industry accepted standard paper sizes to the benefit of both manufacturers and consumers. After the Second World War, mass production boomed, so standards became necessary to guarantee the quality and safety of products. Standardized formats, such as those for freight containers, enabled the huge growth in international trade. Elsewhere, standards were agreed that facilitate manufacture and use of essential products. In the 1980s, environmental considerations were increasingly taken into account in European standards. Over the years, these have evolved to reflect the current concerns of society, such as the health and safety of children, and to accommodate scientific innovations, such as nanotechnology. But, above all, standards are there to simplify our lives. Join us to learn more about how standards support innovation and competitiveness in Europe at the CEN and CENELEC conference on October the 30th, 2014.
And thank you very much for heeding that invitation and joining us today. Before I introduce our opening speaker, I just want to tell you a little bit more about the programme for today. This morning, in a moment, we're going to hear a welcome address and then a keynote speech to inspire you, to set some context for our discussion, and there will be an opportunity for questions after that. Then I'm going to ask you some questions. We're going to get you to work. You were given these little voting cards on your way in your pack. You will need them at various intervals throughout the day. After that, we're going to have a panel discussion where we're going to talk in more detail about how standards can contribute to innovation, what you need to do if you want to take advantage of those benefits, and why this issue is so important. Again, in that session, there won't be any speeches. It will be very interactive, and I will be coming among you with a microphone to take your questions and indeed your comments, your ideas. We very much want to hear from you today, as well as from our eminent speakers. Then before lunch, we'll also get a European perspective. How does this fit into the EU policy horizon? Then, after lunch, we will have a series of breakout sessions, 3 at a time on different topics. You have on your badge, I'll give you more information about all of that later on. We'll then come back here for a closing panel to hear from the moderators of those sessions, how you got on, and to discuss those outcomes briefly. And then we'll end the day with some final reflections of what we've said and heard. So that's it. A couple of housekeeping notes, if I might. We have a packed agenda, so could I start by asking where we have keynote speakers, asking them to stick to the times allocated for their presentations, and to forgive me if I firmly, but I also hope gently, remind them when their time is up. The Twitter hashtag, for those of you who like to tweet, hashtag InnoBridge1414. If anything does come in, if you're one of those people who prefers to tweet your question or comment rather than put your hand up, we have somebody in the room, Ben Carlin over there, who is moderator, going through Twitter, and from time to time I will go to Ben and see what is coming in from the Twitter sphere. Scribing. You see Mariella over there with her magnificent wall. As we talk, as issues are discussed, she's going to draw it for us. She's going to give us a graphic representation of what is coming out of the discussion. So keep an eye on her activities over there. And lastly, just to mention, you've already seen the exhibition in the coffee and lunch area. That is the place where you can go and see some showcasing of projects that have used standards to support and stimulate innovation. If you want to know how it works in practice, you can go and talk to them and find out all about their experiences. So, that's enough housekeeping notes. It's now my great pleasure to give the floor to Scott Steedman, who is CEN's Vice-President for Policy and Director of Standards at the British Standards Institution, to welcome us more formally. Scott, over to you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for that warm introduction. This is a marvellous occasion. I'm just delighted to see that we've filled this hall to capacity. 500 people registered for this really important meeting today. I thought I would welcome you by reflecting on Europe's challenge. Last Monday, I sat with the mayor of Shenzhen, a city near Hong Kong in China, which is over 17 million people. And 30 years ago, it was a fishing village. Our interview was to last 30 minutes, but it extended to over an hour because his enthusiasm for the role of standards to drive his city to become one of the greatest cities in the world was quite extraordinary. So we realized we had a common philosophy of the role of standards in building cities, building the future. And he reflected that what he wanted in Shenzhen was a strategy for standards for the next generation of his city. Bear in mind, Shenzhen is bigger than any city in Europe and has achieved that growth in just 30 years. Now the mayor himself was looking for a standards strategy for the next 30 years. A strategy that he said, of course, was about quality, but not the quality of products and safety of products that we heard in this excellent introductory video. No. He wants a standard strategy for quality of life, for quality of the environment, to a greener city, a smarter city, for quality of employment, for a more innovative city. He really gets it. So our job today is for us to get it as well, that this is not about the past. It's not just about the importance of product quality and safety. This is about the future. So let me just expand by saying what I feel about standards. Standards are really very simple. They are just a consensus of what good looks like. They're a consensus brought together by those stakeholders. They are enablers for business and industry. Why would they be anything else? Why would we want standards that were a barrier to anything at all? Standards have to be there to enable business, to unlock business potential. You think of the healthcare sector. Standards provide a framework for consumers to choose between the higher performing institutions and the less well-performing institutions. In construction, standards provide a framework to bring together that information from the built environment, information that will feed our future cities' models. And in new technology, standards will drive smart cities. They'll drive autonomous vehicles. They'll drive new and emerging fields like synthetic biology, which I was discussing in London just yesterday. Standards in this realm build trust. They build trust with the investors as well as with the public. So the extraordinarily successful model that we have in Europe, the sophisticated system that allows us to bring together one single standard that being used across 34 countries is quite unchallenged in the world. And we can build on that for the next generation. In the session today around intellectual property, I would just comment that, to me, standards are the opposite side. They are the flip side of intellectual property. You need both. But we don't do enough to educate people that standards are simply about sharing knowledge of what goods looks like, as opposed to protecting knowledge. And SMEs and companies across Europe need to balance what their strategy is towards intellectual property with what their strategy is towards the use of standards. Standards, therefore, accelerate innovation. That's the way we want to use them. We want you to see them as an accelerator for innovation through a timely consensus that shortens the innovation cycle. Standards increase the probability of success. Of course, you can innovate without standards. You can do it in your garden shed. But if you want to increase the probability of success, you should be using standards, because you will be sharing your ideas with others, with your consumers, your market, your suppliers, your potential regulators, your competitors. And all of that will increase your probability of success. My second major point this morning is just to reflect that innovation today is now a social process. This brings us full circle to that essential quality of the standard tool, that standards are developed by communities as a way to understand what good looks like. Back in the end of the 19th century, it was about time and railway tracks, and later product safety and product quality. But now today, it's not just about products and processes, it's about people. Standards will unlock the potential of behaviors in organizations, that third and uncharted generation of standards, where we will look to see the discretionary performance of our staff delivering new advantage for our businesses and organizations. We talk about people organizations. If there are people organizations, there must be standards of good practice to help those people deliver their potential to unlock your business. So standards emerged out of that transition from a craft industry to mass production, a convenient tool to enable businesses to exchange their requirements. But standards have become the knowledge fuel for modern business and industry, for products and, of course, for services. No business anymore produces simply products. Everything we do is a service. And now, of course, stakeholder engagement is the key to innovation. Stakeholders shape the pathways, and they become enablers for the business. You must think of standards, for example, in the health sector for care homes. Standards will drive the performance of those care homes and enable consumers to improve their choice. Innovation is no longer a matter of simply transferring industrial technology, but the broader organizational, economic, and social embedding of those new technologies in a development environment. The take-up of innovation, as I say, is now a social process, and we need to reflect on that as we think of our next generation of standards. For all of those reasons, 100 years on from the first introduction of standards in the European context, the role of standards must also evolve. The structure of formal standards making that we have in Europe is sophisticated and it's successful. It's already here. The challenge for us is how to use it to drive performance improvement across European industry. So in your deliberations and discussions today, I would urge you to leave your traditional perspective of standards at the door and think about the future. Welcome to the future. Thank you very much.
Scott, thank you so much.